The world's greatest role-playing game, The Zine, is a zine dedicated to supporting the 5th edition of the world's most popular role-playing game, but with an indie spin. Created by Jen Adcock from Gnome Stew, and Todd Crapper, who is not from the Gnome Stew, but would love a shot if ever given a chance. WGRG, The Zine. And that sounds an awful lot like WKRP in Cincinnati, but it's totally not. It's WGRG, The Zine. This zine looks to bring some of the great indie mechanics and story game ideas that have been circulating along the fringes of the market and merge themselves with 5th edition's adaptable rules set. With your support, on Kickstarter, from October 29th to November 27th, you can help us create investigation mechanics, relationship and social conflict rules, even a metagame of players taking on the role of fictional characters playing 5th edition using Power by the Apocalypse rules. Yes, you heard me correctly. Those are fictional characters playing 5th edition using Power by the Apocalypse rules. That's because with this zine, anything is possible. It's the world's greatest role-playing game, The Zine. On Kickstarter, now.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Who's down with D&D?
This whole party.
You down with D&D?
Yeah, you know me.
You down with D&D?
Yeah, you know me.
I'm down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Who's down with D&D?
This whole party.
Are you ready to get down with some D&D? I know I am. I am joined, as I am always joined, by the magnificent, mature, and mirthful Mad Wizard Merwin. Hey, buddy, what's going on, Shawn?
I am awake still at 9 o'clock at night
It's an unusual Monday evening recording for us,
Yeah.
not a Saturday morning.
because I'm going to be in Orlando when we normally record.
Also, I'm doing like a detective day thing that when we're supposed to be normally recording too, running around the city of Buffalo,
That sounds
looking
like,
for clues.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, a little AR action, what is it? The AR
Augmented
is
reality.
Augmented reality. Thank you.
Nice.
Yes.
See, every day is a day I'm searching for clues, so I don't.
That's funny.
Yes.
Humor. All right. Now that you've gotten our intro and our minute of silliness, let's get into announcements. Hey, I guess D&D Beyond has an encounter builder in beta testing?
Yeah, it was up for just people who were subscribers to test, and they have recently put it into beta testing for anyone. So you don't have to be a subscriber, you don't have to pay. You could just go and you can try it out.
Well, isn't that special?
Yes, it is. It's very nice. I've started testing it. I haven't gotten too deep into it, but what I've seen so far seems really cool. Think of if you've used Kobold Club to create encounters in the past. Think about that, but just with kind of more oomph behind it. So you can sort through monsters, add them to encounters, then you can name and save those encounters. When you're sorting through monsters, there's all kinds of filters you can use. You can set the number of characters and the level of those characters, and you can even do it by individual characters. So you can say, I have 1 3rd level character, I have 2 4th level characters, and 3 5th level characters. Show me what my budget should be for experience points for encounters. So that's really cool.
Well, that's really neat.
Yeah, you can name them, save those encounters. You see the difficulties. It'll tell you how much XP you have to work with for an adventuring day, and then broken down by encounters. If which is deadly, which is hard, which is medium, and so on. And then you can also add text, summary, details, and treasure. So it's still got a lot of features that I would love to see added, such as pulling from their treasure database to put treasure directly into the encounter and, sort through treasure that way like you can monsters. It's something I'm sure that they can do. They're maybe just not quite there yet. And maybe the feature's there and I just didn't see it. But if you are a writer, a DM who build encounters, go check it out. Then they have a survey that you can take after you use it to give them some feedback. So it's looking pretty good, and I'm hoping that this is just a first step in a long list of things that will be coming for D&D Beyond.
I hope so. That would be really cool.
It would
That
be.
sounds like a really nifty tool.
Yep.
All right. I guess GameholeCon is on its way. By the time you hear this, it might be over.
You never know. We're a couple episodes ahead, but if this drops before October 31st, then hey, guess what? GameholeCon is coming very soon. In Madison, Wisconsin, we're going to have a lot of great D&D and Adventures League stuff running there, as well as an enormous amount of panels and other things going on. The Oracle of War Eberron Adventures League campaign will get its premiere of its preview there. So if you like that, come play the 4-hour adventures plus one epic that we are unleashing there.
Shawn, you know what else is going to be there?
What else?
Brett Belinsky of Gaming and BS. Also, Shawn and Brett will have a number of copies on hand of the Streets of Avalon.
That's true.
So if you to sell, so if you can find him, you can pick up a copy if you haven't gotten one yet.
Yep. I'm hoping to play a game with him, and if I can't find time to play a game, at least share a drink with the man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, and regardless, if you're at GameholeCon, just stop by and say hi and tell him Chris sent you.
Yep.
Or Shawn, you know. But Shawn will be there, so you can just say hi to Shawn.
That's right. Please do, by the way. If you see me walking around and looking lost, just say hi. That'll help me figure out where I am.
Yeah, send your selfies with the Mad Wizard Merwin to @misdirectedmark on Twitter.
There you go. Even better.
We want to see him.
Mm-hmm.
#Mad Wizard.
There you go.
Xanathar's Enemies and Allies was updated.
This is correct.
This was from the former Dragon Lord of D&D, still the Dragon Lord of D&D in our hearts, Robert Dorgan.
Well, Robert saved my bacon. So the Gilded Depths put out a product called Xanathar's Enemies and Allies, which had NPCs for all of the subclasses that were in Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
Uh-huh.
And when we put out the product, I didn't realize that we were missing 4 of the NPCs that we had created. They were in a different document, and we got our versioning mixed up.
Yeah, misdirected Mark, word scramble.
That's right. So I didn't realize this, and people kept saying things like, "Why is this missing?" And I looked at my version and said, it's there. Why are people saying this?" And finally, Robert Dorgan, friend of the show, reached out to me and said, "Hey, here's a list of things that are wrong." So I finally went and I looked at the incorrect version and realized that the incorrect version was the one that was up. So that gave us the opportunity just today to fix everything that needed to be fixed, get the new NPCs in there, and get it out to everyone who's bought it. So if you've purchased it already, it came out several months ago. If you've purchased it already, you can go get the new version on the DM's Guild. If you haven't purchased it yet, please consider it. It's been getting great reviews, even with the missing content. It has a ton of NPCs, humanoid type NPCs that you can use as the title says, enemies or allies. And now there's 4 more that you can use. So give it a little glance if you're into such things.
This is the kind of book that I would love to see translated over to D&D Beyond, so all those NPCs could be part of the monster archive.
This is true. Yeah, it's a great idea.
I'd love to see that. Hey, who can do that for us over there at D&D Beyond? It'd be great to know.
It would.
So that's all of that stuff. Let's get into our main topic for the day. Sound like a good idea?
Let's do that.
Okay, we're going to talk about Descent into Avernus. This is our second part of this series. We're going to talk about Chapter 1, A Tale of Two Cities. Shawn, this is spoilerific. Totally spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled on this, please just stop listening. Thank you for downloading the podcast. Please stop listening.
Yeah. However, if you're a DM or someone who is considering DMing it in the future, or if you love to have your adventure spoiled before you play, then keep listening, because we're going to try to give you some tips, tricks, some insight into the design of the adventure.
Yes, absolutely. And I actually really took a pretty deep look at a lot of the stuff so far. Mm-hmm. We're probably not going to get through all of the first chapter. It's a huge chapter.
Yeah, it is.
We're going to try to get through the entirety of there's a dungeon in there, the Dungeon of the Three. So we'll try to get through that.
Yep, we're going to try to get through what covers the first and second levels of the character's adventure.
Which you will probably not survive the first and the second levels of this adventure. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, there might be some tweaks that need to be made.
Yeah, so first things first, let's talk about all the problems that are going on in Baldur's Gate when this adventure starts. Mm-hmm. So, 1, the Flaming Fist is leaderless. That's a huge problem, because the Flaming Fist are a bunch of thugs, mm-hmm. and without their leader, they're even more thug-like.
Right.
There is a bunch of murders being committed, and people being abducted, and their bodies being cast off. Mm-hmm. There are a ton of refugees in from Eltergard. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of people that are fear-mongering the idea that Baldur's Gate is going to be the next city to suffer Elturel's fate, mm-hmm. which is actually true.
The fear is not unfounded, even though they may not understand why.
Correct. So the beginning scene is at the Basilisk Gate. You are kind of hanging out outside of the city trying to get through the Basilisk Gate. Is that correct?
That is the opening scene. So here's where I want to talk about if you're a DM, how you might want to handle this. Because the opening box text is quite long, and it basically dumps a bunch of information on the players. And one piece of that information is, by the way, you were drafted by the Flaming Fist to help protect the city. And drafted in this case means whether you want to be or not.
Uh-huh.
So, if you are going to be DMing this, make sure you have a session 0. Make sure that you tie your characters as best you can into the life of this city. Not just for the reasons that Chris mentioned, because there's all this great background and chaos is beginning to reign in an already chaotic city. But you want your players to have that buy-in, so when they are conscripted, basically, to help the Flaming Fist keep peace in the city, they don't instantly just say no.
Yeah.
We don't want to.
So Shawn is right. The Session 0 thing is right. And the thing that you just have to say is, look, this adventure assumes that you are drafted by the Flaming Fist to help protect the city. Mm-hmm. If you are not into that, we can't play this game. Mm-hmm. Like, that is straight up right there. That's what it is.
Right.
If you're going to fight against that, then just don't play the campaign, because that's not what they're asking you to do. Like, you have to start there.
Right. There has to be this buy-in, and if the players aren't willing to buy in, then they're probably not willing to buy in a lot of the things that's coming in this adventure. So cut your losses right now.
Yeah. So really, you can just ask, like, all right, you're going to be drafted by the Flaming Fist. How are they getting leverage on you? Are you just volunteering for this? Mm-hmm. Give me a reason, as you as your character are going to be drafted by the Flaming Fist, because we can't get around that part. Mm-hmm. So tell me why. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing to ask. And if you want to, you can just leverage the Dark Secret. Mm-hmm. In fact, you can just go right with that, because there's a guy named Zaj. He's the guy that is drafting you. Mm-hmm. And he's a Flaming Fist captain. Captain, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty sure.
Yep.
Yeah, Captain Zaj. And if he knows your Dark Secret, then he can just leverage that against you.
Yeah.
That's the quick and easy way. Really, I would prefer just to ask the players, like, why don't you tell me why you're being drafted by the Flaming Fist?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's a great thing to tie in that Dark Secret. Get that out there right away, right? Make use of that, and you will continue to use it throughout the adventure, but start early and do it often.
Mm-hmm, I agree. You want to say anything else about, like, Zaj?
I do. So, the first thing we hear about Zaj is his description, where it says, I don't know the exact alignment, but it's evil. Right.
He's lawful evil,
right.
I'm pretty sure.
He is described as you go meet Captain Zaj, lawful evil human, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about alignment in this adventure. It's something that Chris and I have talked about a lot, that it's kind of an old and outdated piece of game hardware. If your characters are going to, or you as the DM are going to fixate on alignment in this adventure, you're not going to get very far. It gives a great description of Captain Zaj. It tells what he wants, where he's come from, where he wants to go. It's a beautiful description of an NPC, one of the best I've seen in 5th edition so far. Don't ruin it by just fixating on lawful evil. Everything that you need to roleplay this character is laid out for you so nicely that is a piece of information that's highly irrelevant, as far as I'm concerned.
It is. His motivations are very clear. The way that he operates is very clear. Mm-hmm. It all fits in that lawful evil situation.
Right.
But don't worry about the idea. Like, alignments have a wide. Like, you might have an alignment on something, but it has a wide scope for what could encompass that alignment. Mm-hmm. And honestly, there's a lot of people in this adventure that you're dealing with that you might need to work with mm-hmm. that are evil.
Yes.
So just get over the idea of alignment. I think that's the best thing to go. There's just a lot of duplicitous people. It's Baldur's Gate.
Right. And then it's hell.
Yep.
So Not only are you going to be working with a lot of evil people in Baldur's Gate, you're going to be working with a lot of evil people at Hell.
So don't play any characters that are just like, I'm not working with them because they're evil.
Yeah.
Because guess what? It won't work.
Exactly.
This is not a black and white situation.
Yep. So, with all of that said, then I like this intro. If we've had the box text discussion of should we have box text, shouldn't we? What should it be? We've had adventures from Wizards of the Coast with almost no box text. The Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Now we've got an opening scene with almost a full column of box text. Where
I actually like it.
Yeah, me too. It's good. It has a lot of information. You may need to reiterate some of it. You may need to let the players make some checks to know about the names that are being dropped, because they're dropping names like the Hellriders, and they're dropping the name of Elturel and the Companion and all that stuff. So it's a neat introduction, but then once you get through that, take the time out and unpack it all.
Yeah, this is the opening camera shot of a movie. That's what they wrote here.
Right.
It's really neat that way. I feel like if you are the performative kind of game master, dungeon master, then this is a thing that you should practice a few times, and you can really chew up some scenery with this thing, and then like really give the players a good intro to the city.
Yep.
That's my my spin on it. Like, this is very much, I would suggest practicing it a few times, reading through it out loud a few times to hear yourself read it out loud. That really helps a lot.
Yep.
But there you go. There's no wiggle room in the instructions that you get.
Right. You're exactly right. The instructions that you get from Zaj are, go to this tavern and meet this person. Do it now. I will be here waiting for you.
Yeah. And in pursuit of stopping a cult, I think he tells you about the cult, doesn't he?
Yeah, well,
he just tells you about to stop the murders.
Right.
Stop these murders. There's a bunch of murders. This person knows about them.
Yep.
That's what you get.
Yep.
Then and go. And if you can go do whatever you want after that, but if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you get squads of flaming fist people sent after you.
Yeah, and not in a nice way.
No, it's not good.
So again, it's that this is the game that we're going to be playing. So, as a DM, be upfront with them. Let them know that this is not he's not asking, he's telling.
Yes. This isn't a please. This is a I'm ordering you.
Yep.
I mean, you have essentially been conscripted, so.
Yeah, that's all I've got to say. So, what the instructions he gives you are: go to the Elf Song Tavern and meet with a shadowy sort of character
Named Tarina.
Exactly. And yeah,
then we get to go to the Elf Song Tavern, which is really fun.
It is.
So, the Elf Song Tavern. Why don't you start? Like, there's a bunch of stuff going on here. And you started writing the notes for this little part, so I want you to start.
It's true. You go to the Elf Song Tavern, and you figure out pretty quickly, or you should figure out pretty quickly as the player, that it is a place full of cutthroats.
Yep.
You don't survive long in there unless you either A, mind your own business, or B, be very strong. So the first thing that you do is you get a nice little description of the tavern and some of the people in it. There's a neat map showing both levels of the tavern, and you hear the elf song, which is what the tavern is named after. And for decades, this same song is sung at random intervals by this ghostly spirit in the tavern. However, people freak out because the next time a song is sung, it is a different song. It is a song about Elturel. And so this is a really neat way of getting another nod to the story of Elturel, of Elturgard, and what it's all about, what happened to it, rather than just pure exposition.
Yeah, it's great. And if you're performative and you like to sing, figure it out and sing it. Sing a melancholy song.
Yep. the description given of the tavern locations, a little superfluous, I would say.
There's a bunch of superfluous stuff in this adventure so far that I've read.
Yeah, I mean, it talks about like every private dining room and storage alcove and so on.
Now, that makes this book useful in other places.
True.
Like, well, you just have a tavern that you can use in any game that you want.
Yep. But
So,
probably not important. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. The thing that you need to know is that you want to find Tarina. So if you go in, you'll get a description of maybe some of the people, some of the NPCs, DMs. Make sure you give a description of the NPCs that are hanging around, because they are going to become pretty important pretty quickly in this adventure.
which ones?
Any of them. And I will explain why in a minute.
You mean like Layla Stout and Skraldar Fane and Orlok Mitworth or Whitmirth?
Yep.
Like those ones?
Yep. Anybody at the bar. It says, among the dozens of patrons, they notice a few rats scurrying around, plus the following noteworthy NPCs who play no part in the adventure, but can be brought into the story as you see fit.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Yes. And then they talk about there's a commoner, a spy, another commoner, a thug, an acolyte, and a druid.
And they all have stat blocks.
They all have.
Well,
right.
in D&D Beyond, they all have stat
Right.
blocks.
They're all ones that you could pull out and run, and you might need to. So that's why I suggest DMs make a note of them.
So I really love these NPC descriptions because they're so short.
Yes.
Yet they're still really, I could play characters off of
Right.
them. They're a great jumping off point for a character.
Yep.
For instance, Skraldar Fane. I have some issue with naming conventions sometimes. Like, man, I hate fantasy names sometimes.
Yep.
But Skraldar Fane, a neutral human commoner, is a punch-drunk shipwright with no eyebrows.
Yep. So
I mean, that's a great description.
yeah,
right
I mean,
there.
same thing here. Rahimra Sajaresa is a lawful neutral human acolyte of Savras, god of divination and fate, a gregarious astrologer who loves to gamble.
Right?
Boom.
Like, that's somebody who loves to talk and loves to gamble.
Yep.
And is kind of loud and boisterous.
Yep, and is about fate and astrology.
Uh-huh.
Boom. I mean, all of them are like that. A snooty apothecary wearing a colorful cape. Boom.
So cute.
Yep.
So cute.
So you get that information. You get through all the tavern location descriptions, which may or may not come into play. And then finally you get to the dealing with Tarina part of the adventure, which is really what you came here for.
Yes.
So you get a description of her and what she requires of you in order to give the information that you're asking.
There's like one other thing that's important about this
Okay.
bar, and that's the two bouncers.
True.
Because they won't do anything unless the patrons get hurt.
Right.
Like, if a fight breaks out and there are people that are... the staff gets attacked.
Right.
That's what it is, the staff.
The staff, right.
If the staff gets attacked, then the bouncers get involved.
Right.
That'll be important.
Yes, it will.
Other than that, you're right. Like, there's really not much else that's important about the stuff that's in the bar, except it's a really neat bar.
Yeah, and I will say the one thing I was going to save till the end of this little part, but I'll say it now since it's in that description. There is one of the guest rooms. It goes into a detailed description of the person in it. She is a Sahuagin priestess. She wears a cloak made of fishing nets, speaks common and Sahuagin. She was exiled. She keeps to herself. There's a tub that's filled with brackish water that she goes into when she needs to. There's all this stuff. There's the treasure that's in her room. But it doesn't give any connection to the adventure, either now or later, for her.
Yeah, it's just a thing that's there, right?
And don't waste that opportunity. You've made this great character, especially with what's coming. Make her useful. Give ways for the DM to bring her into the adventure more, in some way, other than a DM can always do it on their own, but as the writer, give them options.
Yeah, but they didn't.
And so it's a wasted opportunity, and it's not bad, right? The description's awesome, the story behind it's awesome, The description of the room is great. Treasure that she has is great. There's 4 lines given to just the treasure, vividly describing where it is and what it looks like. Give me 2 lines of that and 2 lines of how do I use this NPC.
Yeah, right. That would have been great. Where's the hook,
Yep,
right?
Yep. So that said, we'll go on to Tarina.
Yes, let's talk about Tarina. So Tarina is not a good person because there's nobody that's really a good person in this adventure.
Not really.
And they will help. Tarina will help the character, but only if the characters help her with her little problem, which is her real name's not Tarina, and her previous name isn't actually. Her previous name is Rhonda Thunderbell, but that's also not her real name.
That's
and
funny.
she was serving under a captain who she stole a bunch of loot from that captain and a bunch of pirates on a ship. And the pirates that after they mutinied are not very happy with her. They're coming to kill her, or at least get their money back.
True.
So. She's like, if you, keep the pirates from killing me, I'll tell you what you want to know.
Yeah, what she doesn't tell the characters, most likely, is that these pirates can pretty much whoop their asses.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe. So let's break down the numbers, shall we, Chris?
I mean, we can. Yes, I would love to. Which encounter construction thing are you using?
I was using the one that they use in D&D Beyond.
Really? Because I just went right to Xanathar's.
Okay.
And did the math from that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can do it. You can do it either way. Did you come up with the same number I did?
Oh no, not at all.
Okay.
Because you have like over 1,500 experience points, and I only got to there's 7 bandits and there 25. There's 7 thugs.
There's
7,
a bandit captain, 5 bandits, plus 2 bandits that wait outside.
Yes, so the 7 bandits, if we're going to count all of them, they're only worth 25 experience points each.
Yeah, but you're not putting in any multipliers.
Because the multipliers got taken out in Xanathar's.
That is true. And
it's still not a fair fight, but the experience point
Right.
total is something like 450 plus another 150. It's like 600 experience.
Right. I think it came out to 650 if you don't add the
other 2.
if you don't modify it for numbers.
Oh, okay.
And
that sounds about right.
Well, let's step back and talk about that, right? Yeah. So if you go by the Dungeon Master's Guide, this is over 1,500 experience points worth of encounter if you use the multiplier. If you don't use the multiplier, it's 650 or 600 or around there. So
it's not only that, but the bandit captain's off the chart. Like, is not a thing that you're supposed to utilize for a first level party.
Yeah.
Anything that's of CR2 you know how they have that number of like, if you have X amount of characters, you should have X amount of characters of CR whatever to match them.
Right.
That doesn't work in this at all.
Yeah. So basically, Chris and I are arguing numbers. This is a hard combat, no matter how you figure it.
Really, they should die.
Yes.
If it was a straight-up fight.
Yep.
But it's not exactly a straight-up fight because Tarina's on your side, too.
Tarina is. When I was eyeballing this, and I've run a lot of first-level characters. I've written a lot of first-level adventures. I've TPK'd parties of 5 first-level characters run by experienced players with 4 goblins.
Well, yeah, because at first level, it's really swingy.
Right, on more than one occasion. So having 5 bandits plus a bandit captain, leaving the 2 outside to not even come in, that's and Tarina is not strong herself. She's a bandit.
Well, she's a bandit. She'll take up one of the bandits.
Right. Assuming she doesn't just run away when the character
I would say that you don't have her run away, Dungeon Masters, because her in my opinion, her ideal idea is that the characters are her last hope for surviving this thing.
This is very true too. So when all of this is said and done, whatever the numbers we come up with, it's tough. So here's what you should do, DMs. You should have Tarina make sure the characters understand that these are some rough customers.
That's a good tip.
You should hopefully that will do is allow the players and their characters to set up the parameters of the meeting rather than just having it happen at some random place. They can maybe set up some traps, maybe set up something that where they can spill oil on the bad guys and light it. Something that will give them a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, set up a table that they can flip at the beginning to get advantage on their first round of whatever.
Right.
Maybe bribe somebody that's in the crowd to help them.
Yep. And so that's why I bring up this. The NPCs will become important, because if they start bringing some of the NPCs into the battle, then that evens things out a little bit. Having the druid cast some healing spells on them if they fall, or the acolyte doing the same thing could be huge. Having the half-orc thug get involved on their side. Now, they may have to pay a price for that. At first level, I don't know how much money they have, but they hopefully will have something to offer, whether it's just a persuasion check or something more, to get these NPCs in on their side.
So if you don't want to do any of that, and you're just worried about kind of like adjusting this encounter a little bit to make it a little bit easier on the characters, the big problem is Deadeye.
Mm-hmm.
He's the bandit captain.
Yep.
Bandit captain has multi-attack, and it gets 2 scimitar attacks and a dagger attack, and that can just be devastating and deadly to a first level party.
Yes.
Also has 65 hit points, so your attrition is like problematic. Now, I mean, if you have a wizard that can, lock him down for a round or two, that like takes away a lot of stuff.
Right.
But that's not always the case in D&D, right? You never know what you're going to get.
Right.
So if you want to just ease up on him a little bit, I would suggest knocking 20 hit points off of him, dropping him down to 45, and then taking away one of his scimitar attacks from his multi-attack.
Yep.
Then he is still deadly and can still knock characters down.
Right.
But probably isn't going to knock out half the party in one round.
Yep.
That's just that is my suggestion for that.
Yeah. So as you can tell, we think this is a tough encounter.
It's hard.
We think first level characters would probably not survive it if it was a straight up fight.
They probably won't.
Yep. So keep that in mind as you're DMing it. Give them options, either ahead of time or during the battle, to get help. For me, it's always better beforehand. If they know this is coming, let them feel smart. Let them feel capable. Let the characters do something to help themselves rather than throwing in some outside help.
Mm-hmm. And don't give them an infinite amount of time to do that either, otherwise you can get bogged down.
Yep.
Make it sort of a time-pressured situation like, well, you better hurry up and figure out what you're going to do because, you never know when these folks are going to walk in here.
Yep.
So if they survive, which, give them a chance to survive, because, otherwise the adventure will stall out as they're trying to find the next person.
Right.
Or find the next person in their party. They get to go off to a bathhouse because that's where Tarina sends them, to a bathhouse.
Yep. And they're level 2 if they survive this combat.
Yeah, they are. So, also, even if Tarina dies, it's not a big deal because you can just bring her to Zaj, and Zaj will cast Speak with Dead on the corpse.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the shortcut, right?
Uh-huh. Just in case you're worried. Like, you can leave Tarina in there, she can get murdered, it's cool. Like, there's a way around that.
Yep.
Yay, magic, right? All right, let's talk about a solid chunk, at least, of this first part of the adventure, which is the Dungeon of the Dead 3. Can I just say that I think this adventure is trying to kill characters?
It's hard to not kill characters at low level, and it's hard to kill characters at high level. And this adventure is definitely not afraid to throw a lot at characters at a very low level.
I feel like this isn't the kind of dungeon that you walk into and then just stay in there and finish it.
No, not a chance.
This is you go in and then you do stuff and then you leave and then you come back.
Yep. Well, anyway, let's get us to the dungeon first. So Tarina gives you the information that there's a cult that is murdering people, and this cult is stationed, that it's headquartered at this bathhouse. So off you go to the bathhouse, and beneath the bathhouse is this dungeon, the Dungeon of the Dead 3 that we are talking about.
So who are the Dead Three, Shawn?
The Dead 3, Christopher, I'm glad you asked, are Bane, Merkel, and Baal, the 3 death gods.
I know those guys.
Yeah, and the weird thing is there is a whole sidebar or a whole section that says, who are the Dead 3? And it's strange. I started reading this and my brain was like, I can't comprehend what they're saying here. I'm going to read a little bit of it. The
Sure.
Dead 3 are evil adventurers named Bane, Baal, and Merkel. And I was like, they're evil adventurers? I thought they were gods. Are there adventurers that are calling themselves that? And then it continued, who long ago quested. I'm like, oh, so they were evil adventurers. Now they're okay. That makes sense. So it's funny how just like one verb tense can like blow someone's understanding. So that's just a small thing I saw. And then they give the tale of these 3, a kind of shortened version.
It's the short version.
Yeah. So basically, they're 3 death gods. Yay. So there are cults to each of them, and all of these cults are now working together in Baldur's Gate to bring people down, to kill people. But they're being paid to do this. They're being supported by one of the dukes who wants the...
to be the Grand Duke.
Well, she wants to be the Grand Duke, but she wants the Flaming Fist to basically become... She wants the people to revolt against the Flaming Fist when there's so many murders that they realize the Flaming Fist can't save everyone.
Yep, because they're useless.
Yeah. So that's the whole scheme here. And so as the player, go through this dungeon, you begin to learn these things.
Yeah, not till towards the end. Really.
Exactly. So the bathhouse is about 4 rooms, and then the rest of the dungeon is another 29 rooms. I think I'm doing my math there.
They're
33 total minus 4 is 29.
Correct.
Okay,
yep.
Cool. So the first thing I did, I looked at the map, and it's a nice Dyson Logos map. Which,
it's small.
Which
I mean, the rooms are small.
Yeah, which I like. The rooms are small, but I see 33 rooms, including the bathhouse. And I was like, whew, a second-level dungeon with 33 rooms. This is not going to go well.
Well, Shawn, they do a little something that you generally don't appreciate. Like, they just use some rooms with nothing really happening.
Right. And
except for flavor. Right.
And as I read it, I was actually like, okay, yeah, I like this. I think this is cool. I think this is okay. I'm having an existential crisis as I'm writing about for D&D Beyond, writing about adventure design. And I'm on the part now that I'm writing about. I'm a few articles ahead, so I'm writing about encounter design, and I'm writing about exploration encounter specifically. And so I'm going back and forth on how adventures and how, especially dungeons like this, can be done to make everyone happy. The people that love to draw maps and the people that love to explore every 5-foot square, versus the people that just want to get to the good stuff. They don't want all of this extra exploration that doesn't give them what they want in the game.
Well, this dungeon's excellently paced.
That's true. And so I'm glad I read this dungeon at this time, because I was able to appreciate the fact that there are rooms with nothing, and it's still okay.
And there's almost hardly ever a room that just has nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something that's flavorful about the room, like a little something in there.
Right.
Like there's a room that has a dead body in it that's been stabbed in the back multiple times.
Yep.
It's like, you don't know the story, but there certainly is a story behind that.
Yeah, that's true. And so this is where this existential crisis hit me. I'm like, this is a great description. The adventure itself tells the DM, hey, this was a cultist. He showed mercy to someone who they had attacked. So the rest of the cultists killed him and left him floating here. And I was like, that's so cool. How do the players know?
They don't, and that leads to something that Chris Perkins said a while ago, like a few years ago. Sometimes when he was writing, and I don't necessarily disagree with this because this is a book that is being published, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you write an adventure for the DM to read, to enjoy the reading of it, and not everything in there needs to be just for the players.
This is very true. I would not. I love writing stuff that that is for the DM only. I just want, if there is an easy way to get the players involved, then do it.
Yeah, I don't think there is an easy way for the players to get involved with that. It's sort of like the Sahagwin priestess. Like, that's really neat. I was thinking about it. I have no idea how to get that character involved in what's going on here.
Right. Yeah. It's
like not easily. Like, that's what I mean. Like, we're talking about easy, right? Like, if it doesn't occur to me in 5 seconds to connect it to anything else I've read, then it's not easy.
See, for me, it's not that hard though. For me, it's, first of all, put tattoos on the corpse that make them a cultist. The rest of the cultists also have similar tattoos. Okay? So you know he's a cultist. Or you learn that he is as you go through the adventure. The weapon that killed him, make it be the weapon of one of the leaders of the cult. And there's actually a leader with a very specific weapon. Do those two things.
Yeah, then it connects to that later, if they remember.
And so, maybe when that weapon hits someone, it burns them as well. Mm-hmm. So they find this weapon mark with also a burn mark. Basically, what do you call it when you're branding this person as well? You don't know what it is now, but then when you come across that later, you're like, oh yeah, that's what happened. Okay.
So in the writing, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But in me running this game, like just looking at that, I would never have thought to make that connection.
Right. And it's just something that as I'm writing an adventure, I want to try to do, and sometimes I fail miserably, and it helps that I didn't write it because then I can see that. But it's just something I think about as I read adventures. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. I get it. I mean, I'm always going to defer to your opinion on this stuff over mine because you've done a lot more of it than me.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily 100% agree with it. I think it's a good idea. Like, I just don't know, did it need to be there? But then again, there's a lot of stuff in this adventure that didn't need to be there.
And I think one of the reasons why, now that I think about it even more, is because it's such a great point. It's one of those unity of effect things that would be highlighted if you could show that, is that evil kills evil in this adventure, right?
Yeah, that would be good.
Evil is fighting evil all the time.
You're absolutely right. That was one of the things I had a problem with this dungeon, like, as that unity of effect idea. Like, there's a lot of elements that like fit that Dead 3 feel to it, but it feels a little shallow.
Yeah,
something like that would have made it feel more, I don't know, like it would have like thickened up the sauce, basically.
Right, because the last encounter in this whole adventure is pretty much that, right? Evil fighting evil. Yeah. And if you get that feeling going in, if that is even on a subconscious level, it helps that last encounter work. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyway, we need to buzz through this. So
yeah, otherwise we're going to be here forever.
Here we go.
We're already at 42 minutes.
Okay. Let me see what some of the highlights are that I wanted to point out.
Well, let's talk about this real quick.
Okay.
There are low ceilings in this dungeon, and that needs to be highlighted. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody's using a huge weapon, like the ceiling's only 8 feet tall and 9 feet tall in most places, that should actually affect what's going on with swinging weapons around. Mm-hmm. And I think people don't think about that. This is not a very big place.
Sure.
There are also beams in areas and like cross beams that can be destroyed that cause cave collapses. Mm-hmm. This is also important because there are some encounters that actually take that into account.
Yep.
The other thing is that it's dark down here. Mm-hmm. We talked about torches last time, remember,
Yep,
Shawn?
yep.
Like torches matter, like light sources matter a lot in this adventure
Very
because of
much
how how certain guards are and where certain things are and what happens at certain times in this adventure.
Yep.
So those are 3 things to really think
Yeah,
about.
if someone's using a torch rather than, say, a light spell or all dark vision in this adventure, you need to make note of that because boom is coming up.
There's a boom part.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, there's a part where a guard can notice you with a torch,
Yep.
and it matters a lot.
Yeah. So, we're talking about details and having details make a difference. The very next encounter after you see the corpse, there is an altar. And it says right in the adventure, if a character dumps holy water on the altar, it dissolves.
The altar starts to smolder,
Right,
and the
and-
entrails that are on them melt away.
Right. And I was like, that's a great detail. Make it work. Make it more. Make exploration mean something.
Yeah, it would have been better if they would have gotten some sort of boon for doing that.
Right, exactly. Boon or bad. What I would do is say, hey, you dumped that on there, good job. Make a charisma save with advantage. If you fail the charisma save, you're affected by a bane spell for the next combat or next 3 combats. If you make the save, then you have a blast for the next 3 combats.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, make it mean something.
I'm with you. I was thinking the same thing.
Cool.
So,
Awesome.
The moldy tapestry is terrible. There's yellow mold on it. Don't touch it.
Yeah. Within a 10-foot cube, if they touch this tapestry that has mold on it, they take, at average, 11 points of poison damage.
Well, they get to save first.
Well, if
there's
they-
a saving throw.
A DC 15 con save at
I mean,
second
it's
level?
hard,
Yeah.
but
But then
also they don't have to touch the they don't have to touch the tapestry.
right.
I'm just saying, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, but the problem is if they fail their save, they take that damage, and then at the start of each of your turns, you take another D10 damage until you save.
Oh no, you're dead. You're gonna die. That's a kill you trap.
Yeah,
Just throwing it out there.
it's nasty.
There's then there's the dead 3 doors. That's actually the split for the dungeon. There's a bunch of different ways you can go.
Yep.
But then that leads to the different areas where there's the ball, the bane, and the Mercule
Yep.
Merkle sides. So there's a really fun encounter with a bunch of cultists that are lying on the floor, pretending to be dead.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's really fun.
They're lying in like a ritual pattern to try to fool you into thinking they're dead and we're part of some ritual.
So good.
And what I would do, the adventure says have them jump up when the characters enter the room or if they're attacked. No. Have them lay there until the characters go all the way through and leave the room.
Yeah.
Then have them jump up and attack the last person who leaves.
Or if they go over to stab one of them.
Right,
then-
right, exactly. But make it different. Make it something that you wouldn't expect.
I didn't notice that some of the stat blocks have the spell most likely to be used.
Yeah. Yes.
Really?
Yep. In some of the stat blocks at the end of the adventure, I noticed it while I was flipping back to look at the new monsters that you're encountering here. Some of them have like 1, 2, or 3 of the spells, if they're spellcasters, that they're most likely to use. So you don't have to flip to the player's handbook, which is very nice.
So there's a partially collapsed crypts in there. They have spells as treasure, like a bunch of spell books as treasure. I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
Yep.
Okay, there's Bane's altar. This one made me laugh because there's a tough encounter here, right? Like the Fist of Bane and the Iron Console. They're really described well, right? Like
Yeah.
this is a woman and a man, and like one of them has like a fresh painted skull and blood on their shield, and the other one's wearing like the a Bane helm on their head. And then you fight them, and then you kill them, hopefully. And there's like somebody that was being tortured there. And his name is Clem Jasso. But after that, you can mess around and try to like take the stuff from the suit of armor that's part of the altar. There's like a spear that you can grab. I think no, there's not a spear. That's a different place. Anyways, if you mess with that though, the gauntlets come off and act as flying swords.
Yep.
And I was like, what?
Yeah, so not only did you just fight this really tough battle, if you survived and you're like, oh, I checked the armor, see if it's magical. Well, the gauntlets fly off and begin to kill you. Mm-hmm. It's a rough dungeon.
Yeah, well, and let's move on because then you get to the morgue, which is where Flennis is, who is the highest ranking member of the Mercule in the dungeon, and They're a Master of Souls, so they're pretty tough themselves. And they have a swarm of rats. And that swarm of rats is an undead swarm of rats. And let me tell you, swarms aren't nice.
Yeah. Well, you know what else is not nice, Chris? A CR4 spellcaster that can cast Fireball twice when you are second level.
Yeah, right?
Because I don't know if you know this, Chris, but Fireballs, if you fail your save, do 28 points of damage on average.
A lot of damage.
And
a lot of
even
damage.
if you make it, that's 14 points of damage, and she can do it twice, and the room's big enough where she could like move to the corner and do that. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Guess what is holding the roof up?
One of those pillars. One of those, like,
guess what happens when they take fire damage?
They collapse,
Yeah.
Shawn. They collapse, and then you get a bunch of rock dropped on your head.
Yeah, for a lot more damage. Boy, this is a rough dungeon. As the DM, you're going to have to be very careful. You're going to have to work to keep your party alive. So give them chances to see things ahead of time. Give them chances to heal themselves. Give them rests, because they're going to need all of it.
I mean, they could leave and be level 3 before the dungeon's over.
Yeah.
There's a lot of experience points in this dungeon.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
it's true. It's true. At any point, you could have them level up to 3 because they might need it.
Mm-hmm. There's a nice little spot after that, D14, where there's a rat that you could talk to.
Yep.
That's fun. There's oh my god, D16. There's a spiritual weapon trap in here. Like, you go and you try to, like, it's a place that's filled with water. And there's an open stone sarcophagus, and if you go grab in there for treasure and things like that, there's a spiritual weapon pops up that looks like a battle axe, and you can't do anything about it. You just have to run away.
Yeah, it hits you like a spiritual weapon would, and then you attack it, and you can't affect it. And then it hits you, and then you may try to do something else, and then it hits you more. And until you leave the room, it keeps hitting you. As someone, again, thinking about exploration type encounters, I want to up the stakes here. I want to make this. I want to give the characters a reason to have to stay, but give them a way to get rid of this effect other than combat.
Mm-hmm. D17 is Merkel's altar, so this is kind of fun because there's some writing on the wall, and it says "Rise and be counted." And if you speak it out loud within 5 feet of the altar, you basically raise up 3 animated skeletons that will serve you.
Yep.
Now, Shawn's going to talk about how this is. There needs to be context to this.
Right. So it's really cool. I'm going to add the one little element you missed. There are candles that are unlit in the room.
That's true.
And so when you light the candle, then you see the message. And if you speak the message, these skeletons rise up. So if I'm a player, as a player, I'm an instigator. I don't care if my character dies. I'm going to do the thing to trigger because I want to see what happens. But there are a lot of players who are not like that. They want to know what they're doing before they do it. And so this is one of those times where this encounter is so cool, and you do it, and you get these 3 skeletons that serve you, and that's so cool. But give a little context. Give a DC 10 religion check to realize that with the configuration of the candles and that word, what will happen when you speak it is this. And then you can go ahead and do it without trepidation. Now, it's not assured that you're going to make that check, but at least you have a way of getting some more information.
So this, to me, they wrote an old school encounter here.
Yep.
Like, all right, here's some stuff. Mess around with it, and you'll get the reward.
Right.
But if you don't, it's not going to stop you from proceeding forward.
Right. And so what, I mean, as a DM, if I'm running this, I'm just going to add what I said myself, depending on my players. Some of my players are just going to do it, and that's fine.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is really about playstyle, right? Like,
Yep.
we're definitely talking about the playstyle where you can add in like things so that the characters can access more stuff and survive.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to play this adventure that way if you don't want to.
Right.
You know, if you want to play it the other way, just understand that there's going to probably be a much higher death rate, and you're going to be having people make more characters over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Which is okay if that's what you're looking for.
Yep.
But that is the way this adventure is written, in my opinion.
Yep.
So just be aware of that. That is the play style that this adventure is going for. Something that's pretty much very brutal and kind of a grinder.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Because the next encounter is the gas buildup. But this at least has the check that you're talking about, Shawn. Like,
Right.
oh, you get to make a check before you die.
Yeah.
Because I need to talk about this.
Yep.
So it smells like rotten eggs, sort of like sulfur, right? Like, I mean, that's fun because that's Unity effect stuff that they're playing for later. But really, it's gas, and it's flammable gas. So if you walk in there with a torch, it's going to explode, and it's going to do 4d6 fire damage if you don't succeed on a DC 15 saving throw, and half as much on a successful one. So you're just taking damage for walking in here with a torch. It's bad. Like, this is the 14 hit points is a lot of hit points for a second level character.
And then, of course, there's the beams that are holding the roof up.
And that'll collapse then, and that does damage also.
Yeah.
So, like, okay. That'll kill you. You'll die.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage
Once
to be
again.
had here. But what's awesome about this is, since in the exploration sense of encounters, since you gave them that check, they can realize this. They can extinguish their torch before they get there, and now they have a resource they can later use. They
That's
can
absolutely
lure
true.
someone here and make the dungeon easier rather than harder. So, in that sense, I love the design.
Y'all out there listening in listener land, I'm gonna tell you about an anime that you should all go watch. It's not for the faint of heart, but it will show you how to fight like a D&D adventurer should be fighting. It's called Goblin Slayer. It is a character that is constantly using the environment to their advantage to kill things. It's got some questionable content in it, but because the monsters are really terrible. But go watch it. You'll learn a lot about how to actually fight in a dungeon.
Yep.
Like what you should actually be doing.
There you go.
I mean, they essentially cast a sleep spell to put 50 goblins to sleep and then just kill them all. Like, that's how you're supposed to fight things. Because nobody actually wants to fight anything. Like, it's a terrible idea. Just throwing it out there, Shawn. Just throwing it out there.
It's true.
Anyways, the reason I say that is because that kind of playstyle will work effectively in this dungeon. I mean, this is not a nice place.
No.
The next one to jump to is the D21. There's an obligatory zombie encounter. There's a bunch of zombies behind a door. They'll just try to kill you.
Yeah, and I'm fine with just a monster encounter if that's what it calls for. No big to do needed. It's just an encounter. But again,
Hey, and you can avoid it. You don't have to go in there.
True. This is true.
This is a side room.
Yep. But again, as a designer, look for opportunities, right? You have this cult who is taking people, murdering them, turning them into undead. Have the zombies be someone the characters know or recognize.
Well, here, let me put this to you too. In the book, the zombies obey only their creator and attack all others. So they are also a resource that you can utilize to fight other things.
This is true. If you lure them away. Yep. That's absolutely true. Now,
And we all know that zombies aren't that fast.
but Chris, characters can only do that if they know the information that the DM is told.
That is true.
So-
and that is a thing. There's no check for that here. So
Exactly.
it would probably be worthwhile to add in a check to understand that, like a religion check of some sort.
Yep.
Assuming somebody asks, right?
Yeah. Or they don't even have to ask. Some runes on the wall, something with the way the zombies look, or runes on the zombies tell you that they only serve their master, or they don't serve anyone. I would even go one step further. But anyway.
There's a torture chamber. It's awful because these people are being tortured and there's buckets of salt around. They actually rub salt into the wounds.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, man. There is a thing though. There's a woman here named Vendetta. It's funny. Her name's Vendetta.
Yeah.
Vendetta Cress. She's a tiefling. If you save her, there'll be some really positive effects on the party for that. She will spread stories of their heroism, and she also can clue them in on a secret door. So saving her is a plus positive for you.
It's true.
And then there's D23 and D25.
Yep.
This is another one of those places where the torch is really important because there is a sentry that is on guard with a torch lit, so you can see the torch that they have, or at least the light from their torch. But if you have a torch or some sort of light source, they will also see it. Now, the encounter here is they're going to withdraw right away once they realize there are characters there that are not like part of the Dead 3, and try to warn the 4 other enemies that are sleeping and wake them up. So it's a really big deal and a big flip and switch and play if that NPC wakes up the other NPCs. So like you have to understand what's going on with your characters and with this character at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably play them a little bit curious. They don't want to just be reactive because they don't want to wake people up for nothing. That's how you just got to think about that. It's a really fun encounter. I like encounters like that a lot.
It's a great encounter, and as you said, it gives the DM wiggle room to do different things, and gives the players options to handle their business in a different way.
Mm-hmm. The next one that I want to hit is D26, because there's a Reaper of Baal that is covered in blood, and she casts a disguise self spell on herself to look like an old lady. Mm-hmm. But she's covered in blood. So this is one of those times where like this little old lady is walking around, and then all of a sudden there's like bloody footprints behind her, or like the flecks of blood behind her, or if she brushes against a wall, she leaves like a blood stain, like a simple one, because that blood's probably a little bit dried, right?
Yep.
So that's an interesting encounter to play out there too.
It is. These are tough encounters for me because you just naturally, as a player, don't trust anyone that you find. Just unless they're like tied down to a table. That's fair.
If
they're not shackled and they're like, "Oh, I'm a prisoner," you're like, "Okay." So, as the DM, you might want to tweak it a little bit if you want it to become something where the players might be fooled. But other than that, if they believe her, she'll go around with them until she gets to a place where she will turn on them, and when it's best for her, when she has allies around to take them out.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to play up that little old lady angle, right?
Yeah.
Like, have her in the corner, like, looking like she can't really move all the way, because she's a little old lady and they took her cane.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. D29. Mm-hmm. This is the sort of not the final encounter, but it could be the final encounter. Like, yep. So this is where you run into Mortlock Vanderthamp.
Mm-hmm.
So Mortlock is one of what the heck's her name?
Duke. The Duke.
Duke Vanderthamp's Duke Vanderthamp's kids. I will have these names memorized at some point. I swear.
Yeah. Well, it's just
trying to.
They're so hard to say.
Yeah. But Mortlock is one of 3 kids, the youngest, and Mortlock has been scarred terribly, and Mortlock is a big brute. And his brothers don't like him, and his brothers want him dead, and the 3 decided that maybe we don't need Mortlock to run us anymore because we're pretty effective on our own. So and with a little bit of prodding from the brothers, they try to kill Mortlock. Mm-hmm. And you come upon this fight.
Yep, the characters get there just as Mortlock is locked in mortal battle. Mortlock, with one of the leaders of the Dead 3, and so when you enter. And I kind of like this. When you enter, it triggers something that it's hard to misrepresent, right? The guy who was attacking Mortlock runs away.
Yep.
And Mortlock says, "Oh, I'm glad you're here. You saved my life." And then he explains everything that's been going on and where the characters need to go next and all of that. And, it's very staged, but I don't mind it being staged because it's clear. It lets the characters know exactly what the situation is, gives them their next step, and then they can really do with Mortlock what they want.
That's true.
They could take him out right then and there. That's fine, as long as they have that information. They could just let him go, and he goes away, or they could use him as a tool in the adventures to come.
Yeah, I mean, he'll eventually run off as soon as he gets a chance because he wants no part of being in the city anymore. Mm-hmm. This is another one of those situations where it's a really good description of an NPC, right? Like the NPC's motivations are very well laid out. Mm-hmm. I noticed this is one of those places too that they have his entire stat block, and it's like Shawn asked me the question. I was like, I wonder why they actually have his entire stat block. Like, why is the stat block here if you're probably not going to fight him? And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, you could recruit him.
Well, it's
at
not
least for a short period.
It's not why do they have his stat block, because sure they might fight him, but all the other stat blocks are in the appendix. His is there right in the encounter, but he's not someone you're likely going to fight. It just seemed weird to me not to put, it seemed like the wrong place to put a stat block. If you're going to put a stat block in the encounter, put it in the encounter where they're going to fight the thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. I think I mean, it is kind of in the encounter. It's at the very end of it, right?
Right. His is.
Yeah.
But, like, the one you have to fight is actually in the appendix.
Vaz?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's just a generic lord of whatever he is.
Right.
Right? He's a death head of Baal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the reason that they did that, Shawn, is because there's more than one death head of Baal that you could fight.
Okay.
Not necessarily in this section, but there's a section below this that's Dead 3 encounters, because you can have the Dead 3 show up later. Like
Cool.
different members.
That makes absolutely perfect sense.
Yeah, so that would be why I would lay it out that way. Also, because then Mortlock isn't very far from the encounters that you might need him in. Like, he's only a page or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. I accept
that would be
answer.
that would be my assumption. Not having the actual hardcover book, right? I have D&D
Right.
Beyond.
Yeah.
So then the last couple things. One, there's some stolen goods and there's some treasure, and that treasure is from Tiamat's hoard.
Mm-hmm.
And you should note that there is treasure from Tiamat's hoard, because Tiamat is not happy that people stole from her hoard.
No, she's not. And guess where Tiamat is?
In Avernus,
Yeah.
guarding a portal to the
Yeah.
second layer of hell. I think.
That's going to become important later.
Yeah, that'll be important later.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final area, there is Vaz, Lord of Bones, not Lord of Bones, the Death Head of Baal.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 statues there. It's their meeting room. The statues all have an effect.
Mm-hmm.
They're interesting effects. Like the one for Bane will force you, if you fail your saving throw, to kneel in front of the statue and not do anything else, which means you're basically subjected to a hold person spell.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which means that the Death Head of Baal can stab you with impunity for a lot of damage and kill you.
It's true.
And the other ones have effects too that are interesting enough.
Interesting. Ooh, the Lord of Bones one, the Merkel statue.
Yeah, it'll kill you.
If you desecrate the statue, you're cursed.
Yeah, there's that.
And until a remove curse spell is cast, you cannot benefit from magical healing.
Hence why it'll kill you.
Yeah.
It's not good, right?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, the Baal statue doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah, you can take the little mask off it.
That's fun, right?
Yeah.
I can get my Harlequin mask. Why
Yeah,
not?
I'm cool with that.
You kill Voss if you want. That's fine. He's not that tough, really. I mean, he's tough enough, but by this point in time, like, you've killed a bunch of things.
If you've survived this far, you can take
I mean,
us.
you should be level 3, maybe level 4 by this point. There's no end of experience points to have gotten. If you're playing with experience, and then you're like, cool, we can leave, yay, we beat the dungeon. And then as soon as you walk out of the dungeon, you get ambushed by a bunch of dragon cultists of Tiamat who want their treasure back.
Yeah. And there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse as a player than to just get your butt handed to you repeatedly in this dungeon. You somehow manage to make it through. You take the treasure. As you're leaving, some more evil bad guys show up and say, "Give us the treasure." And you're probably all at like 1 hit point. And what do you do?
Yeah. Actually, you're not supposed to even have a chance to like give the treasure back. If they show up and you have it, they'll just kill you.
This is true. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not like they. It says if you have the treasure, they attack you. If you don't have the treasure, they tell you to step aside so they can go get it.
By the way, I don't know if they actually mentioned that treasure has like Tiamat symbolism on it or anything like that. Because I mean, Tiamat just stole it, right? Like you don't know that it's Tiamat's treasure.
Yeah, I don't think that there are some draconic pieces in there. But you might not note that unless you know that it has to do with Tiamat.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the only thing. Like, there's nothing that indicates that treasure is Tiamat's.
Yeah.
So have fun with that. I mean, my suggestion is like they ask for it back first.
Exactly.
Like, give us the treasure and live.
Yeah. And it's a lot of treasure for second level. I think I added it up to it's about like 500 gold pieces worth of treasure. So it's a lot for second level, but it's not like you couldn't live without it.
Doesn't it end up being more if you sell some of the other things in there? Like the crown's like worth 250, isn't it?
Right, but a lot of it's like copper.
It is,
Yeah.
and then there's a bunch of silver too.
Yeah, it's like copper and silver only. There's
125 in silver because it's 10 for every.
I added it up at some point, and it came up to like 500, 600.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it wasn't. It seems like it's a lot, but it's not. For second level, it's a lot, but not outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, like in just gems in the crown and things like that, it's like 375, and then when you start adding in the silver and the copper, it only ends up being like 500 to 600 or something, somewhere in there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not that much. So it's not a ton. Like you can give it up and not feel too terrible, I suppose.
Yep.
Plus, you can keep some of the other stuff. They just want the treasure, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah, they just want the stuff. There's no magic in any of that. Well, there is one potion of fire breath.
there in fact is.
Actually, 2 potions of fire breath in the Tiamat Hoard.
Mm-hmm. That's right. The 2 red crystal vials with gold
Right.
stoppers.
Yep. But there's potions of healing. There's other sorts of treasure along the way that you.
I guess they probably want all that stuff back, don't they? They probably want it all back. I would say they want it all back.
I don't know if they'd be big on negotiating either.
Yeah, just give me the 4 chests and you can live.
Mhm.
You can keep all the stuff from the stolen goods area.
Right. Exactly.
All right, so that's that. Hopefully, by this point in time, Morlock has given you the information to move the adventurer along, which is to say, you should go kill my brother Amric, or capture him or whatever. He's pretty much a jerk, and he's at the Low Lantern, which is a inn tavern type place.
Yep.
The player characters at this point, though, know that the Van Thampors are the ones that are behind all this stuff, so they could just go to the Van Thampor Villa if you want and deal with that.
Yeah. But Morlock says, well, if you're going to deal with my mom, she's pretty tough. You might want to have a bargaining chip, like going and capturing my brother.
Yeah.
If you keep him hostage, you might have a better chance of dealing with her.
Since Amric's the favorite.
Yeah.
But Morlock just wants to skip town at that point.
Yep. But if you can convince him, he will come with you and help with his brother.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was an exceptionally long episode of Down with D&D.
Yeah. And we were like, oh, I don't know if we're going to be able to fill up the whole time.
No, I thought we would fill up the whole time.
Well, we certainly did.
I was like, I don't know if we should do the whole dungeon, but we did. Enjoy.
There it is. I hope it's helpful to DMs.
Mm-hmm. Patrons, to shorten this up a little bit more, we appreciate all of you. We will read Patreon shoutouts next time. You are all amazing people, though. Thank you so much for giving us money.
Yeah.
If you'd like to be a patron, we could just skip the ending, I suppose, this week.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening, and we hope you enjoy this show. We're going to try to do the same thing with this whole adventure. Just take it piece by piece. If you appreciate that, let us know. If you want us to go at this differently, let us know as well.
All right. So, Shawn, what are we going to do now?
We are going to go kill some PCs.
Wow, I was thinking Dead 3 Cultists, but sure, let's kill some PCs.
Yeah, I think there's going to be more PCs than cultists.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Get down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Who's down with D&D?
This whole party.
Down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
You down with D&D?
Yeah, you know me.
I'm down with D&D.
Yeah, you know me.
Who's down with D&D?